My name's Thomas. I'm a local beekeeper and surfer down here on Wadawurrung country of the surf coast of Victoria. So what came first, surfing or beekeeping? I think back in 8,000 years ago when beekeeping first started in ancient Egypt, I'd like to be able to say that beekeepers were surfing down the Nile River as they were moving their hives between different locations. But I think the whole reason why we wanted to link beekeeping and surfing together was just to get some epic footage of me wiping out in my beekeeping suit. But in terms of my passion with beekeeping and surfing, surfing definitely started from a really young age. I grew up with split time between Melbourne and Warrnambool at the end of the Great Ocean Road, and I just fell in love with this coastline and the abundance of waves, and I think that really led to a childhood of spending a lot of time outside. When I graduated from university when I was 22, I studied outdoor education, and I wasn't really exactly sure what I wanted to do as a career, so I was greatly inspired by a movie called 180 Degrees South, where these guys surfed and travelled all the way through South America. And so when I was sitting in an 8 AM lecture, I was a little bit bored. I decided that at the end of my degree, I booked a one-way flight to Argentina. And that sort of set the scene for a 2-year adventure through Latin America. And I made it through the mountains of Patagonia, all the way up through the jungles of Peru, the world's longest wave in Chicama, the Peruvian Andes. I was traveling with lots of little jars of honey from different countries that I visited. And I realized that no matter where you are in the world, honey changes flavor, honey changes texture. And at one point I was like, oh, I'd love to be able to try honey from the source, like honey straight from a beehive. And at this point I was about 1.5 years into my travels. I was starting to run out of money, and I came across the opportunity to volunteer and have a work exchange with a master beekeeper. And it was in that time I really had a crash course hands-on experience working with beehives, and he really inspired me into the gentle art form of beekeeping. There's more to bees than just honey. They actually have an amazing environmental purpose. Bees are what we call a keystone species, which means that without bees, a lot of our ecosystem and environment wouldn't exist. Bees will visit a male flower, sprinkle a little bit of pollen dust everywhere from flower to flower. They move that pollen around. This germinates the flower, and the flower is able to grow into fruits and vegetables and seeds. 1 in every 3 bites of food that we eat is all thanks to bees and other pollinators. So I think surfing and beekeeping have a really nice correlation through being a bit of a gentle art form. Spending a lot of time observing the bees and their behaviour. You're trying to be as calm as you can when you're working with the bees, so the bees are calm and you're calm. In a way, it has a lot to do with surfing. Especially my surfing, I really like a slower approach and just trimming through waves on my longboards and high volume boards. In Australia, we have over 2,300 different species of bees, and our native bees are different colours, they're different sizes. That are solitary bees. We even have native bees that don't have a stinger. Now, one of my favourite types of native bees is the blue-banded bee, because they specialise in buzz pollination, where they actually have bigger flight muscles and wings compared to other bees. They vibrate their wings when they're inside of flowers and close to flowers. They're able to release hidden pollen particles, and so they're able to pollinate a big majority of our plants that some other varieties of bees aren't able to pollinate. Currently around the world, bees are declining in numbers. There's a lot of impacts and issues that are facing our bee populations. Now that we're in a climate emergency, we're seeing seasonal weather differences where we're getting droughts and fires or flooding. We have deforestation, which is removing pollinator corridors for the bees. Pesticide use is a really bad one for bees. When there's like a big monocrop spraying of pesticides, this is a really tough one on the bees. We really have to take care of our bees so that they can continue to grow in numbers, especially our native bees. And so we have lots of pollination. They're almost like silent pollinators going around. They're quite humble, doing lots of hard work. All right, hey guys, we're at my local primary school today, Belbrae Primary. We're about to jump into some World of Bee school incursions. We're going to be learning all about different types of native bees. The kids are going to be buzzing. We're going to be passing around lots of equipment. I'm super excited. Let's jump in there. Let's go. Passing around bees. I'm buzzing over here. Can I see some jumping bees? Can I see some jumping bees? So during winter time, the bees are trying to save all of their energy. And inside my beehives, we have 8 of these frames all in a row. You guys can probably see some holes over here on my face. Also, there's holes on my arms and on my legs. Why do beekeepers' suits usually have holes everywhere? Yeah. So I have some air so I can breathe and so I can see. That's a great answer. More and more people are learning about bees and their importance. So I think I'm really excited to see people planting pollinator gardens to encourage bees into their garden. It's quite like a reciprocal thing. Like the more people plant bee-friendly flowers in their backyard, the more the bees are going to come in. And it also means that if anyone has any fruits and veggies growing, they'll probably get a 30% extra boost or an extra yield in their fruits and veggies. Some challenges I've overcome is just learning to listen to them and to see what their bees need. It takes a little while to sort of figure that out as you go along. In my first year, I remember putting my beekeeping frames in at the wrong angle, or I might have accidentally left one out, and that created a lot of cross comb where there was honeycomb everywhere, and it created a big mess, and the bees weren't happy, and I was like, oh, this is such a big mess. I've been stung by a bee. I have been stung over 100 times, I think. But normally when I'm doing rescues of bees, I was doing a rescue of a really big beehive about 2 years ago. And those bees are a little bit spicy, a bit more defensive than what I was used to. And unfortunately that day I'd left one of my gloves at home, and I think I ended up copping 20 stings on my right hand, and my whole hand just like ballooned up into this. I had a huge hand for about a week. That was a big challenge in learning not to forget your beekeeping gloves at home. We've given this bee a very silly name. What? Would you like to know the silly name for this bee? Yeah. This bee is called a teddy bear bee. So bees have got 3 million hairs on their body. They actually have more hairs than a rabbit. And they use that to collect all of the pollen, which I find really interesting. They actually collect the pollen and stick it on their back legs, which we call pollen pants. A lot of the kids really find that funny in the school programs. Bees have also recently been found out to recognize human faces. So I'd now like to think that my bees maybe recognise me when I'm coming in, which is a good thing, that I'm trying to be as calm as possible with the bees, that hopefully they get excited. So the advice I would give to people that are looking to start beekeeping is to be quite curious. So start your research, learn about the bees in your local area. Beekeeping can change a lot depending on where you live. Beekeepers in Melbourne and in different cities, it's a very different style of beekeeping to where we are down on the coast. So maybe reaching out to a local beekeeper you might know, or a beekeeping community group, just to get a bit of intel on what times of the year certain flowers normally bloom. If you wanted to get started with surfing, I think it's best just to jump in, grab a wetsuit if you live down in Victoria, and just jump in the water, learn from a friend who is happy to teach you the basics. And yeah, it's really great to spend time in nature. You always come out of the water feeling super refreshed, and surfing really makes you want to be in the present. So think it's a really great thing to do. Get started, do some lessons, and yeah, learn through making mistakes. Yeah, just throw yourself in the deep end and jump in, surf a big range of boards, big range of conditions, and yeah, I really love that. Everyone to please give themselves a really, really big buzz on the back. And then a buzz on the other back. And can I please get everyone to say a really big thank you, bees?
Thank you,
Thanks, guys. This is ridiculous.
That's so funny.
The suit was really like tight to like be able to pop up, and then I tried to put the hood on and I just couldn't see anything, and so I'm riding like, where am I?